Howdy folks, today let's talk about the Plunge Unity. I made a previous video about these and said they were $900. Let's just immediately correct that. They are 660 United States freedom dollars, not 900 Canadian bucks. Just to mention that, I really screwed that up. Dude told me a funny story. He's like, yeah, man, I was gonna, I took the plunge and I was about to, I gave him my credit card and then I looked at the charge and it was like, what the fuck? It was a nice surprise. Not 900. So sorry about that. Yeah. 660 American dollars. And they have 4 balanced armatures of some type. I'm not sure. I probably could have asked Simon, but I don't know. I don't think it matters. If I had to guess, I'd say they're Sanyans just based on the sort of the overall tonality. Seems to me like Knolls tend to have a little bit of a metallic timbre. So anyways, let me just flip over to my desktop and let's talk about stuff. Okay, 4 balanced armatures, fully sealed shell. So that's going to be the one difficult part of these for a lot of folks. They will lock into your ear extremely like a custom IEM, and as a result of that, you're going to definitely need to work out the tips so that you don't get pressure buildup and things like that. So, I mean, I can show you what I use on these, which works really well for me. I have small ear canals, and they're highly bent. So, I don't know if it matters, but here's exactly what I'm doing. Little baby BB, small tips, wide bore. That works really well for me. And then as you're putting these in your ear, you kind of you put them in at an angle and then you twist as you're putting them in. And you could find some videos online of how to put in custom IEMs, which these fit very much like. So just to mention that is probably going to be one of the bigger deals for most folks, is getting these in your ears without a pressure buildup. But because of the nature of the way they're designed for studio stage use, you kind of need that isolation and that complete air seal. Anyways, let me flip back over here. All right, they are made of 3D printed nylon, very unique type shell. I don't think I've ever seen it before. I really like the texture of it, and just to look at that on video again, sorry flipping around, but it's got this sort of like orange peel kind of texture. I don't know if you can kind of see that, or skin texture. I really, really like it. It's very, very ergonomic. It doesn't feel weird. It feels very much like part of your own anatomy. Whereas some IEMs with like resin shells that are extremely smooth, I don't know. You can feel them in your ear more than these, I think. So maybe the texture helps a bit on that. Also, I was theorizing that perhaps the texture, which goes all the way into the bore and the internals, it might help with some reflections. Not sure, probably minorly, but a little bit, possibly. I was guessing about that. Back over to the desktop. All right, 28 decibels of noise attenuation, great for live use. Any place where you have a lot of really loud noise around you. Maybe if you work in a machine shop. I will say this. I went on a quick run with them, and I haven't taken them up in the mountains because I really don't feel like breaking other people's stuff. But because of the fact they're sealed and they don't go super deep in your ear, you do have the ability to get body noise transmitted through like your ear canal. So for instance, I can hear my heartbeat a little bit and thumping from bashing the ground with my feet, which like for instance an etymotic does not do because it fills up most of your ear canal. Just a thing, I suppose. If for stage use, you're probably not going to be like running in place, so probably works well for the intended usage. 36 ohms at 1 kilohertz, that's the the impedance, and I believe it said like 93 decibels per milliwatt. Bottom line is they'll work with anything. A phone is fine. They're not out of the ballpark. They because of the 36 ohm, by the way, if you divide by, let's say, 8, the rule of divide by 8 to get your output impedance, that would give us, we'll say like 4 ohm or below on an output impedance, which should work really well for like battery packs. battery packs, wireless amplification packs. It should work well for that. And you shouldn't have a shift in tonality, which I'm sure Simon, the maker of these, had in mind. These absolutely do need a deep fit. So like what I'm saying is you don't want to shallow fit them so they're poking out of your ear a little bit. You will get shout factor. And I tried, various things just to kind of work out that. And yeah, if I put on big fat tips and they're shallow fitted, the mids become quite shouty, and it's probably not the way to go. So we'll talk about the general sound signature of these, and basically these are serious business. They're not a party set. They're not for people that just want bass smash and they want to rock out completely. Like, it's sort of hard to put this in words, but these are more what I consider audiophile. They have serious mids, and so I consider sort of for a party set, maybe a little bit of a V shape. You want some bombastic bass, maybe a little twinkly treble to give you some Easter eggs up there. But these aren't that at all. They're serious, and they are seriously well tuned to show you exactly the way any track has been mixed and produced. I did find them to be highly source sensitive, so sadly enough, I really don't like them that much on my Aeun B1S. It's a Class A amp. I don't really know why. I didn't flesh it out a lot. It just, the synergy wasn't really there. And I hate to say it, but oddly enough, these work the best with just a potato level, if you want to call it that. But I'm using a Mo2 Mark V headphone out. It's a Sabre point, like about 5 ohm output impedance on it. And honestly, I like it better with that. So things like clinical DACs, dongles, stuff that has no color is probably going to be the better stuff. And also for studio usage, that's probably what you'll run into more. Yeah, so low impedance devices seem better on this, although I don't know why. Like 4 ohm and under is not hard to accomplish. So, but anyway, I felt like with a lower impedance device, you actually do get more sub bass out of these. Yeah, more bass, more fullness to the sound, and I do like it with something under 1 ohm, although technically speaking, I can't really see why it would be like that, but it seems like it is. All right, so the overall signature, this is Studio Flat, bitches. It's for live sound monitoring. It's going to be completely unlike almost any other IEM that anyone's ever tried. So if you haven't heard flat sound, but that's also extremely musical, then this is going to be your IEM. Moving on, we're going to go for the various metrics. So we're going to go for bass. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I actually had to think about this like a lot. I was going down to about a 7, 7.5. And then I realized, not only does it not have any roll-off, here's our graph over here. Well, I guess I chopped that off at 10, but there's no roll-off. It goes down to 10 hertz. And it's not bloated. It's not, it's not really anything. The bass is extremely accurate for almost any track. And it has a really, really nice amount of texture. And it actually does this little bit of a ghost bass thing, pretty well, which is to say the bass doesn't actually seem to come from within your ears. It seems like it's more around you, and I really, really like that. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. If it had more, and by the way, I don't know how to do this, but if it had more actual sound pressure level, a little bit more air, I would prefer that. But I don't know how you do that and make this signature come out right. So anyways. Mids, I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10. They're incredibly forward. So look, mids, if we're going to talk about mids, we're talking about from here, I'm going to go for, we'll call it 300 all the way to 900 hertz, right? Or 1K, something right around here. So we're talking about this right here. Let me see, can I draw a line? That. It's like 700 hertz or something like that. Those are mids, in my opinion. And then, we have the high mids, or the presence region, which goes above the 1K, right up here, which is clearly not flat. But everything that is mid-mids are pretty well flat on this guy. They're full, they're bold, they're organic, and what's more is, on many, many, many tracks, you're going to find that, like, wow, the mids are smacking me in the face. And what I found really is that the better quality the mixing, the better this sounds. And so there's a lot of stuff that you can pretty well tell immediately that it was mixed on studio monitors or some type of speakers that were V-shaped in some way. So to combat that, they increased the mid-range in their mix, and then you put that on these, and it's like, wow. So it's pretty obvious. The higher the quality of the track, the better the mixing. Generally, the newer, the more the mids fall into a perfect place and are just amazing. Now, I will say this. I really enjoy mids, and there's a lot of tracks where you'll use this set and you can compare it to something else, and immediately the other thing that you're comparing to is just like, what the fuck, man? It's scooped. You know, and because of this, it's really, really hard to switch from this set to almost any other IEM on the market. There's this huge brain burn problem. If I do it, this sounds too mid-focused, too forward, and then the other IEM usually sounds too scooped. So it's like, wow. Honestly, it took me like 40 minutes probably between flipping to let my brain relax and be able to enjoy it to the maximum extent. So it's a thing, man. Moving on to treble, we're going to give it a 9 out of 10. And so I really, really appreciate the fact that there is no peakiness in this. The treble is in such a nice, organic, realistic place, and it doesn't sound like balanced armatures. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. You might think this is like a dark graph, you know, so if we're talking treble, maybe between 4K and 10K or something. Clearly that's lower than our mid-range right up here. So if the treble is up there, then we are at, we'll say, and I think that's actually a peak at about 7K, which is about equal to the mid-range. But let's say the treble is sort of an average of this, so we're maybe like 3 decibels down from the mid-range, just to make that point, and 3.5. But I really, really like it. I think that it is an achievement to be able to produce treble like this out of balanced armatures and have it so natural sounding. Resolution, it's not electrostatics, it's not planar, it's not some of the, you know, it's not pushed in the treble area. So we're going to give the resolution about an 8 out of 10, which is to say great and not over the top, not spectacular, but like good enough for anything and very, very musical. So no problems there. Moving on to stage, we're going to give the stage a 9 out of 10. And so I really need to nitpick this and not be just, you know, gushing. So this is not going to be a deep sounding IEM. However, if your track is actually mixed that way, you will get the depth. But it is much more flat sounding than a lot of IEMs. However, it is incredibly wide and 3D and swirly around the head. It's a lot more of that than a lot of sets out there. I find it to be very, very similar to like close monitoring studio speakers. So, you know, from like 4 or 5 feet away at most. And so I find the stage to be absolutely amazing. It's got tons of X factor on this. I don't mind the fact that it's not super deep because I feel like that's just not the way this headphone is tuned. So 9 out of 10 on stage, man, amazing. So imaging is real interesting, and I was about to give this a higher score, and then I actually sort of started listening to some tracks where I fleshed that out, and it's like, you know, I think this is kind of why I like the stage so much. I really don't like super precise pinpoint positioning. It's like it's unnatural, and it's not the way sound ever hits in like a venue, and it's not the way recordings generally sound. So this has a much more diffuse sound stage. You can absolutely pick things out in 3 dimensions, so like, you know, close to you, far away from you, left to right, no problems, but it's not that super precise imaging, which a lot of top of the lines, quote unquote, try and do. So natural, amazing staging. And so the X factor is fully in effect. If it has them, they're going to be, it's going to be the stage, the mids, and the overall tuning, the way that all combines into this amazing soundscape. So coming from any other IEM, it is absolutely really hard to acclimate the brain. I already said that. It just is a thing, man. So like, here's just a little funny story. I sent my buddy Nature Dad, who has Plunge. I sent him one of my tunings, and he was like, yeah, you know, and sold it in like a few hours. And, you know, I get it. If I actually switch between my planar tunings and this thing, my tunings sound probably scooped, and a little bit heavy in the treble. And I'm getting better at that just recently, other things to talk about. But point I'm trying to make is it's just really, really hard to swap between IEMs with this. It's so drastically different that it's hard for the brain to work its way around that. It has the most mids of any IM I personally tried, and also probably some of the best ever, just because they're not scooped in any way, shape, or form. Mids are the heart of music, 100%. Vocals, any kind of instruments. There's guitars. God, you know, go on and on about it. But acoustic instruments, they all live in the mid-range, and plenty of electronica stuff does. So a lot of the stuff that matters in music is right smack where this doesn't dip. So, you know, right in this area, right in here, just outline it again, mids, no dip. And so it is truly a mid-range lover's set, not mid-set, you know, mid, but a mid-range lover's set, absolutely 100%. And I find that, like in my own brain, I think that quote-unquote audiophile should never, ever have dipped mids. And so this really knocks it out of the park for like that audiophile sort of a mojo going on. Interestingly enough, the ear gain is about 7.5K, so we're talking about this little guy right here. So that's, yeah, somewhere in that range, 7.5, 8K, or 1.8K, sorry, Jesus, 1.7 to 1.8K. That's clearly forward, but what it is also is it's not extremely high in SPL. We are at 4 point something decibels, 4.2-ish. So vocals are going to have some nice pop in tracks. And, you know, I think a lot of tunings need to try this and get the vocals up a little bit more forward in your mix. But to do this, you have to have this next peak right around, what are we at here, 2.8K. And so most Harman-styled IEMs completely don't do this first dip. That's like not there, and then they bump up right around this, the 2.7K. But what that ends up doing in terms of psychoacoustically, it sucks out the lower harmonics of vocal ranges and also a lot of instruments. And so if you compare this to a lot of stuff sounds slightly hollow in that region if you just really pay attention. So anyway, going on and on about the mid-mids and the high mids and the presence region there. But yeah, the rest is pretty well arguably flat on this thing other than the ear gain region, which is really cool. The mid bass on this is clearly not scooped. You're going to get all the mid bass. It's just part of the entire sub bass to mids curve, which is an extremely interesting way to do it. There are other IEMs that do this and have a flat area there, but what they don't do is they don't have low ear gain and then not push treble. So very unique. And yes, it is more what I consider audiophile in my own mind, heart of the music. It is a little unforgiving, and because it's uncolored and unforgiving, the track has to do all the heavy lifting. And so the track is mixed with low bass, you get low bass. It's just the way it is. If it has plenty of subs, you get plenty of subs. A lot of EDM is very mid-forward, and this is a thing I realized really quickly because, yeah, the idiots mix on V-shaped speakers, which of course is fun, which means they mixed in more mids, which means you put this on and it's like, wow, mids are smacking me right in the face. Incredibly open stage. If I be with my best stuff ever and I actually give my brain some time to burn, it is right up there with the best stuff I've ever heard. It has zero balanced armature timbre, perfect coherency. I wanted to say that. I'm glad I put it on there. I really am off-put by a lot of hybrid sets right now because the way that the dynamic driver hits in the bass is very sloppy and slow. Like, people call it slow, right? But there's the driver itself, the membrane, does not stop nearly as fast with transients as balanced armatures does. So the fact that this is all balanced armature, we have all of the same timbre and all the frequencies coming from the same drivers, it's great. I actually prefer all balanced armature sets over hybrids right now. Let's forget tribrids for the moment because of the coherency issue. Also, planners do that just naturally, dynamic drivers, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So with the Plunge Unity, you're going to hear your mix of any track extremely clearly. And you're going to find yourself sort of fart sniffing the actual engineers that were making the track, which is an interesting way to be. Also, the scale of the sound, I'm glad I put this as well, is extremely large. So it's hard to put this into words other than just scale. Like, this just sounds like a large sounding IEM. A lot of the stuff I personally tune, I like it to sound large. There's plenty of stuff out there that doesn't sound large. It sounds smaller, more narrow, just, you know, less big sound. It's huge, man. Much larger than any mid-scooped IEM ever, although maybe not ever. But yeah, you get it. It's a larger sounding IEM. They have more warmth, sub-bass and mid-bass than I expected from the graph, although now that I look at it and fart sniff it a little bit, I understand it much better. What's also interesting is this type of tuning can go from warm and juicy, so really, really organic, to a little more clinical and OCD'd for tracks mixed like that. Again, man, the track has to do all the heavy lifting. Amazing stuff. And Treble is eye-opening because it's tuned so well and so naturally for a balanced armatures that it's just a thing of beauty, man. Yeah, I mean, I would have never tuned like this just based on every other graph I've seen, so highly impressed with the way the treble is tuned. There's no 8K resonance peak, which according to the internets and other things is like a half or quarter wave resonance. Let me think, I think it's half. So that's like your ear canal length, sound bounces back and forth in that closed tube, and what happens is you get basically sound waves reinforcing each other. You get a peak at 8K. The 711 coupler is designed to produce that, so I suppose that's supposed to be very similar to an actual ear canal. And for some reason, I cannot make this thing 8K peak. It's possible it's the 7K one, but it doesn't, yeah, it's weird. Can't make it happen, but I like it. I think that the best IEMs out there really don't have an 8K peak that you can find on a graph, and whether or not it's really there or it's the coupler or some combination of both, when there's an 8K peak, I feel like it's definitely got a little bit of harsh uppers depending on tracks. So yeah, magic technology in this thing. If it requires no pressure buildup, I already talked about that. Right, so all music genres on this sound correct, give or take. So the give or take is going to be probably stuff that's super bassy, super fun, but I still enjoy that stuff a lot. And yes, they do sound like actual studio recordings being played on flat studio monitors. They really, really, really do. Yes, extremely accurate to the mix and recording style. And one of the funner things to do on these is just fart sniff tracks, the mixing, the engineering. It's just like, wow, I can hear exactly what they did. It's really cool. So X Factor will be the stage and the mids and the non-scooped nature of the mids. Also, you know, just the highly 3D swirly factor of it is just amazing. And yeah, it's been a long time since I heard what I consider to be truly audiophile IEMs. Like, they really just, you know, knocked my brain into a different dimension, made me rethink things, all that. It's really fun. Love it, man. And, you know, you might say, well, safe tunings are probably going to be better for more people, but in my mind, it's these fun, esoteric, unique tunings that are much more fun, especially when they're good. So anyway, it's just fun for me. Right, no missing parts of the signature, no odd stuff, no peaks. Everything is pretty well just the way it's supposed to be. So let's move on to music impressions. Most of this is going to be just fine. Couple outlier stuff. So blues was from meh to amazing, meaning that I got a lot of old tracks, blues tracks that came from like, I don't know, 50s, 60s. They sound like horrible. And that's, I mean, like, you know, scratchy, center focused, peaky, no bass, just all mid-range and stuff. And it sounds exactly perfect the way it is. But the best stuff I have, like Ry Cooder, go look him up. He's a phenomenal composer. He likes to do a lot of blues stuff. That stuff is just, Jesus Christ, yeah, it nearly made me cry. And so this is truly a chameleon of music replay. It goes all over the place, all over the map. It changes the way it sounds. It changes its mojo depending on the mix. It's really, really fun. And I would say, just based on that also, I do dislike IEMs that tend to put all tracks in sort of this like musical box where they all sound fairly similar. I really appreciate the IEMs that can break out of that mold and sound like anything. Classical, this is basically one of the best classical sets on the market. It's just amazing. You know, so much of classical is all in the mid-range and the acoustic instruments and the venue, staging, and it's just damn. So classical is just amazing on these. If you're a classical aficionado, then you're going to want these. Disco was interesting. That's, you know, disco is generally older, so we're talking 70s, early 80s. And none of that had a lot of bass in it. It was all very, very mid-bass focused. And this really, really sounded like old school systems, which didn't have a lot of sub-bass. That all happened later, maybe like late 90s or something. But also, it has a really nice, punchy low end that did disco real well. Electronica. So, yeah, immediately I found out that a lot of the composers and stuff that I like, they actually boosted mids on a lot of that stuff because everyone's using V-shaped things, and so it sounds really rather in your face and shouty. Not a lot of it, but some of it. Exposes the mixing style. Stage is absolutely amazing, so no matter what you might complain about that, the stage is going to absolutely pull it off, you know, left to right, swirly around the head. Just amazing. And the sub bass is excellent with tracks that have plenty of it. It's not going to sound, you know, weak and puny and stuff like that. No peaky treble, so stuff like Cascade, which has extremely high bias treble, can crank it up and I don't get a migraine. That's cool. And Perturbator is amazing. You can look them up, and so does Future Primitive. Some of that stuff has just some of the most amazing staging stuff. Also, well, Vaporwave's down here a little further, but Vaporwave was like, holy shit, man. Just amazing. Jazz, probably one of the best stuff IEMs for jazz ever made. It's got a nice mellow mojo to it, smoky, wide, just perfect, perfect mojo for jazz. Metal, it's one of the best ever. Goddamn, unbelievable. But, you know, it's because I suppose it's not got the scoop going on. It doesn't have high push treble. It's metal up your ass. Hell yeah, man. R&B, definitely a new way to hear a lot of these tracks because there's no V shape. It doesn't have super bombastic bass, so you end up hearing stuff that you may not have heard in the mid-range. Vocals on a lot of R&B really, really punch through, whereas before you heard more of the bass and the treble twinklies. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Reggae was absolutely amazing. A lot of reggae is very mid-centric. It has a really nice amount of mid-bass. A lot of reggae is not super sub-focused, and this really just knocks it out of the park. You get all that nice low-end warmth to the stuff. Vocals were amazing. Male vocals on a lot of reggae, just, you know, you can hear the primary harmonics in the vocal cords. So the low stuff, not so much of the presence region in the vocals, just, oh man, amazing. Rock was actually phenomenal. Guitars in particular, distorted guitars, amazing. Acoustic guitars, amazing. Very percussive. Stage is amazing. Just to mention, A Perfect Circle is quite intoxicating. Soundtracks were incredible. The stage is what really pulls these off. A lot of that stuff has really nice acoustic instruments. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Yeah, I guess I'm gushing. Vaporwave, the stage was so awesome. A lot of that stuff is highly mid-centric and so can be smacking you in the face, and I didn't mind it a lot. You know, the smacking mids in the face kind of reminded me a little bit of the EJ turned up to deafening levels, so that's all good stuff. Vintage and lounge, perfect, perfect, perfect. Just all that stuff. Okay, so conclusions. The flat mid well, bass to mid shelf is amazing, and the only way it works is with the exact forward ear gain and drop treble. Simon, the tuner, did figure out something that a tuning that no one else has, and it's quite an accomplishment. And worthy of consideration for any serious audiophile. X factor is through the roof. The fit and everything is top level. Oh, the case sucks. I don't care about that. And the cable is very nice. Downsides, it may not be for people that really don't like mids, so you got to do some soul searching here. This is really a mid-lever set, and so there's probably going to be some folks that get this and just like, wow, I thought I liked mids, maybe I don't like them that much. So do some soul searching there. You're going to need to figure that out. 660 monies. And so yeah, if you get these and you hear the tuning and you're just like, I don't know about this, man, give it about 30 minutes. Don't listen to anything else. If at the end of that you're still just like, no, it's killing my ears, then, you know, probably not for you. Very hard to switch from this IEM to pretty much anything else that's an IEM. Yeah, so either this will sound forward or the other IEM will sound like a scooped mess, and it's actually a struggle. So, and that's one of the reasons it took me like a whole freaking 2 weeks to do this second review, is like, I got all this tuning stuff I'm doing, and I'm trying to A/B test with some of my other IEMs, and it's like, god damn it. It's really hard to do. I have to pretty much just come at them after not listening to anything else for a while, and then let my brain burn in for a little while, and then it's like, that's the way to do it, man. All right, folks, Godspeed. I hope that you have $660 and you love your mids and you're an audiophile, and I recommend these highly. So thanks for sending me these Canadian audiophiles, Canucks. I enjoyed my time with them greatly. I will own them one day, and I will talk to you on the next one. Goodbye.